Welcome back to the channel. We're going to do Western films and Western film scores tonight. So I'm going to go through all the Western films that I have on Blu-ray. Now I do have some on DVD, but they're all in boxes somewhere and it'd be too difficult to find at the moment. But we'll go through all the films and we'll go through all the stuff that I have on CD, and we'll mention some stuff that I have on download only as well. But there's going to be no particular order to this. There was when I first started, but when I started to sort it out, the order kind of went pear-shaped. So I'll go through just the films first of all, or films that I don't have soundtracks for, or don't have CDs for. So straight into it. First one, Django Unchained. Great film. Some Jerry Goldsmith, some Ennio Morricone on there, all sorts of stuff. Great film. Next up, Duck You Sucker, or A Fistful of Dynamite. Now I've got pieces of score from that on various kind of compilation CDs, but I'll go through those at the end. But that's I like that film. It's quite an eccentric film, but Sergio Leone. Brimstone. That is a peculiar Western. Very good, very long. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I just remember it's peculiar. Guy Pearce, Dakota Fanning, and some other people. We're going loose with the rules here, Birdman logic, but ostensibly this is a Western. Bad Day at Black Rock. Great film, directed by John Sturges. Yep. Now, what constitutes a Western? To me, living where we are, anything west of here, which is the United States, is a Western. That's my rules. So I've got Gods and Generals and Gettysburg, both the extended director's cuts. So there's about 300,000 hours of film there. Great film, very long. Two Mules for Sister Sarah. Don Siegel, Ennio Morricone. Really fun film, but it gets kind of really brutal and violent at the end. Kind of a weird mix of tones, but good fun though. This was roundly bashed by the critics, but I love this. I think it's a great film. The Lone Ranger. Great score by Hans Zimmer as well. Great use of the William Tell overture. Comes in just at the right point. Stormy version of it. Love that film. Gunfight at the OK Corral. Music by Dmitri Tiomkin. Now I've got selections of the score on that on some compilation CDs, which I'll go through at the end. But great film as well. A Million Ways to Die in the West. Great score by Joel McNeely. Great old-fashioned kind of Americana score. Seth MacFarlane doing Western comedy. Good fun. Maverick. Underrated, I think. Did okay at the box office, I think, maybe. Directed by the great Richard Donner. Fun score by Randy Newman. I don't think it's ever been released, or if it has, I haven't got it. But good fun film. Bone Tomahawk. Disturbing film. Yeah. Thoroughly recommend it though, but be warned. The Searchers. Max Steiner. John Ford. Classic Western. Great stuff. Don't have the soundtrack to it. Another peculiar Western. Michael Fassbender. Who would have ever thought he would do a Western? Slow West. Peculiar, but good. Open Range. Great film. Great Western. Kevin Costner. Love Kevin Costner as a director and as an actor. And Robert Duvall as well. So Open Range, music by Michael Kamen. I have the score for that on download, but I don't have a physical copy of it. But lovely score as well. Great film. I've loved this film since I saw it as a kid. It kind of freaked me out as a kid, and that kind of twist ending, won't mention it here, but great stuff. If I'm not wrong, the score was by Lenny Niehaus, I think. But yeah, great film. Another John Sturges film, Joe Kidd, and that had music by can't remember at the moment, but it's been a few years since I've seen it. It's either A fun film or a dull film? I can't remember. But they drive a train through a saloon, so got to be good. Jane Got a Gun. I've only seen this once, and I enjoyed it. Unusual Western, but quite hardcore as well. But yeah, good as far as I can remember. Appaloosa. Directed by and starring Ed Harris and Viggo Mortensen. Very good film. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. El Dorado, another classic. Yeah, John Wayne. Roundly bashed again by the critics, and I don't know anybody that likes it, but I quite like it. Scores, but it's just a fun popcorn flick. What's not to like? Aliens and cowboys. Cowboys and aliens. Okay, let's go through the CDs that I don't have films for. Again, Birdman rules. Smokey and the Bandit, ostensibly a Western again. North and South TV series, Bill Conti. This is the highlight CD. I don't have books 1 and book 2, the kind of the big CD collections, but great score, great theme tune, just great score. Big Americana. Westworld. I have this on 4K actually. Westworld. I have the first 2 seasons in 4K. They're in a box somewhere. But I quite like Ramin Djawadi's score. Yeah. Wild Wild West. That's the original version. No, it's not. That's the deluxe edition. That's the original version, which was only like 30 minutes of score, but that's brilliant expansion. Brilliant expansion. Again, roundly slated by the critics, but I kind of enjoyed it. It's just a nonsense film, but I do have that on DVD somewhere in a box. Jerry Goldsmith, Stagecoach. I have seen this film. I can't remember it. Can't remember it in the slightest. I know it's in colour. That's about it. 100 Rifles. Saw it about 35 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. Again, can't remember much about it, but great Jerry Goldsmith score. Three Amigos. Loads of people love this film. I don't think it's particularly funny. It's enjoyable, it's entertaining, but it's okay. But I do love Elmer Bernstein's score. Elmer Bernstein to me is the daddy of Western scoring. Jerry Goldsmith again, Breakheart Pass, good fun film, based on an Alistair MacLean novel. A good fun score as well, Jerry Goldsmith. Here's one of those weird twofers. This is the Wild Rovers. I've never seen the Wild Rovers, but it's a great score, great score. Standout track for me is Bronco Busting. That's the one that's always covered on various compilation CDs. Here's another Jerry Goldsmith one that I've never seen, One Little Indian, but a great little score, Jerry Goldsmith again. I have seen this. Again, it was slated by the critics. It's okay, but nothing to write home about. Bad Girls. I think this was Jerry Goldsmith's last Western score. That was the original release from '94, I believe, and that's the expanded release. Great score, great Western score. 68, 69, something like that. Bandolero. Jimmy Stewart and Dean Martin. Fun Western, but with a really downbeat ending. But great score, again by Jerry Goldsmith. Mark Shaman, great little score for City Slickers. Went to see that in London, in Leicester Square. Again, fun film. Modern Western, that is. First of the compilations here, this is Jar by Jar, film themes by Maurice Jarre. I'm only including this because it's got Villa Rides. Villa Rides. Western-ish. Paint Your Wagon, musical Western. Clint Eastwood sings. Fun film. Lee Marvin sings it well, if you can call it singing. Here's a compilation. This is all scratched and a bit beat up, but it still plays. John Barry, The Collection, 40 Years of Film Music. I've included this because John Barry doing westerns, it seems like a weird fit, but Mr. Moses and Monty Walsh, amongst others, are on there. John Barry doing westerns. Who'd have thunk it? Okay, let's go through films that I have scores for. Again, this is in no particular order. First of all, this is my rules and Birdman logic and all that kind of stuff. So if it's west of here, it's a western. Glory. That's not the expanded score. That's just the original release. But great film, great score. James Horner. The Legend of the Lone Ranger. Again, it's a John Barry score. Score's okay, nice score, but the film is, I mean, it's spectacular photography and some great stunt work, but a bit dull. Silverado. Great old-fashioned film from 1985. John Cleese as a sheriff. That's the original release of the score, and that's the Entrada expanded release. Great Bruce Broughton score. And if you haven't got it, get it. It's brilliant. Back to the Future 3. It's a western and a time travel movie and science fiction. That's the original version of the score. That's the 25th anniversary edition, the 2-disc expanded one. And that's the Back to the Future 30th anniversary trilogy, which has Back to the Future 3 in it. Now we get on to some classic Sergio Leone here. There's the box set of the Clint Eastwood Man with No Name trilogy. Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. There's the score for The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Now here's a 2-disc set. It was called A Fistful of Sounds. It had the complete soundtracks to Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more and Once Upon a Time in the West. There we go. And there's Once Upon a Time in the West. Okay, bit of Quentin Tarantino again. The Hateful Eight. Some people like this, some people don't. I love it. I think it's great. People raved about Ennio Morricone's score, and it won an Oscar, but it's all right. It's nothing. I mean, there's been better stuff in the past, but it's okay. Just my opinion, of course. Again, Birdman rules. Extreme Prejudice. It is like a western, and it's got a really very 80s Jerry Goldsmith score, but I really love it. I really like the film as well. Western elements. It starts in Ireland and it ends up in the West, so I'm including it. Far and away, great fun old-fashioned romantic adventure, and a sterling score by John Williams. That's the original release. That's the one I just got from La La Land, the expanded release. I've wanted that for so long. Glad I've got it. Terrible film, meh score, but it's got a great theme, a great storming kind of adventurous theme, and that's Tom Holkenborg's The Dark Tower. Don't know why I've got that on 4K. I think it was probably like £2 or something, but there you go. But check out the Roland de Velde is the main titles. Great theme. Classic western, widescreen cinerama, actually filmed in with 3-camera cinerama. How the West Was Won. Spectacular stuff, but it's a bit dated. But that transfer of it is absolutely stunning, and an Alfred Newman score to go with it. That's a disc too. That includes all the songs and the kind of folk music and everything. But great score, great main theme, dynamic. It's about a cowboy, this film, but it's set in Australia, and it's Quigley Down Under with a great Basil Polidoris score. That's the original release. I don't have the expanded one, which is a shame, but I do have a slightly expanded one on download. But thoroughly recommend that. Great fun film, great score. Next up, we have the Oscar-winning Dances with Wolves. That's the original 3-hour cut. That's the expanded 4-hour cut. That was a promotional CD single, kind of remixed and kind of popified. That was the original CD release of the score. That was the first expanded release of the score. And then La La Land did a 25th anniversary, stunning 2-disc, everything goes version. Lovely thing, lovely film. Set in the future, but it's just like a Western. And it's okay, I quite enjoyed it, but again, slated by the critics. Kevin Costner's The Postman, but it does have a wonderful score by James Newton Howard. That needs expanding, that really does. Next up we have from 1973, 74, something like that, Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles. That nearly fell out. I don't know what the difference between these two is, maybe a couple of extras, but great score by John Morris. Weirdly, his name isn't mentioned on the outside of the CD, it's only mentioned on the inside. Why is that? He wrote the music. Next up, one of Birdman's favourite scores for the Cowboys. My first introduction to the music to the Cowboys was on that CD by request. It had the 8 or nearly 9-minute Cowboys Overture, which I thought was absolutely amazing. It was only years later that I got the soundtrack. When I say years later, a couple of years ago. But I remember seeing the film as a kid and just being shocked when, yeah, well, you know what. But yeah, great score. Get the deluxe edition if you can. And I hope, Daniel, you get your 2LP version soon. I know it's going to be a while, but hang in there. Next up, again, it's West. Great film, Lincoln, with a wonderful score by John Williams. It's a Western. Next up, we have Wyatt Earp, Lawrence Kasdan's film, with a great score by James Newton Howard. Unfortunately, I don't have the expanded version, I just have that one, but it's a nice record of the film. Next up, another Wyatt Earp film, which I prefer to Wyatt Earp. It's the incomparable Tombstone. Great film, love this film, and it has a wonderful score by Bruce Broughton. That's the original release. That's the expanded Intrada release. Thoroughly recommend that. Great old-fashioned Western. Next up, it was I got this a few years ago, and it had literally been probably about 30-40 years since I'd seen it, and I couldn't remember that well. But it's a really, really good film. And it's got, this is another one of those weird ones. This is a twofer. It's got The Big Country and How the West Was Won. Not the greatest sound quality, but it's the soundtrack. But I do have a better version, a re-recorded version of The Big Country on download. But great score, Jerome Moross and the film there. Another great Western, one of my favourite Westerns of all time, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and Burt Bacharach's score. Love that film, love the score as well. I always thought that the score didn't fit with the film when I was younger, but I've changed my mind. It's perfect, it fits it, quirky. This is Elmer Bernstein by Elmer Bernstein with the RPO Pop, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra Pops Orchestra. I've included this because it includes a suite from the Magnificent Seven. Enough said. Talking of the Magnificent Seven, another great Western. It's one of those Westerns you see, you think, oh, it's going to be action-packed, but you know, the only action is really, really at the end, but it's worth the wait. And it has an iconic score by Elmer Bernstein. Wonderful, wonderful score. This is the Vrez version that came out in 2004, produced by Robert Townsend, and that's the re-recording done by the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, also produced by Robert Townsend. Yeah, wonderful stuff. The remake, it's okay. It's entertaining. I was disappointed by the score though. It was finished by Simon Franklin after James Horner's untimely death, but I just found it a bit, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Another few westerns here. Rio Conchos, Take a Hard Ride, Butch and Sundance, The Early Years, and The Last Hard Men. Rio Conchos, music by Jerry Goldsmith. Not a bad little film. Take a Hard Ride, a spaghetti western, but okay. Great score by Jerry Goldsmith. Butch and Sundance, The Early Days. I'm not too sure who scored that. And The Last Hard Men, weird one. Originally had a score by Leonard Rosenman, but it was an experimental score, and they ditched that and they tracked it with music from Jerry Goldsmith. But they from films, I've got it written down here. They tracked it with music from 100 Rifles, Rio Conchos, Morituri, and Stagecoach. Weird, but there we go. Now, wonderfully epic, romantic drama, Legends of the Fall, with a wonderful, wonderful score by James Horner. Now, that's the original release, which I've had for a few years, and that is the expanded release that Daniel got me. So thanks again for that, Daniel. Thank you so much for that. So pleased I've got that. It's the 2-disc expanded version. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Thank you. Again, Birdman logic. Serenity. It's cowboys in space, isn't it? So, and it's got a wonderful score by David Newman. Anytime you get to show off David Newman or say his name, he deserves more. He does so much for the soundtrack world and for film music in general. Give the guy bigger films. David Newman. Next up, we've got Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights. Just great fun adventure comedy films, and 2 fun Randy Edelman scores. That's the original Shanghai Noon. That's the kind of truncated, mixed in with songs, but you've got some of Randy Edelman's score on there. So yeah, love those films. Great kind of wet Sunday afternoon films. Next up, John Wayne, Big Jake, kind of late stage John Wayne. I love those late stage John Wayne films. And music on, this is John Wayne Volume 2. This is the Varese film music collection. So this had the Shootist, Big Jake, Cahill, United States Marshal in it. Great re-recordings by the Utah Symphony Orchestra under Elmer Bernstein's baton. So yeah, thoroughly recommend those if you can get them. I think you can get them on Apple Music and things like that as well. Next up, we have one of my favourite westerns, True Grit, the original True Grit from 68, 69, something like that. Love that film. Great lines, just wonderful performances. That's the original soundtrack released by La La Land. Really, really good stuff. That's a re-recording done by the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. And it includes some bonus tracks like The Sons of Katie Elder, which I love, Shootist, Comancheros, Cahill again, Big Jake, yeah. And this is volume 1 of that John Wayne Varese collection, and it had the Comancheros and selections from True Grit. Again, great re-recordings by the Utah Symphony Orchestra. Thoroughly recommend those. That was the remake. I was such a fan of the original that I was worried about the remake, but it turned out to be a really, really good film. Not much of a score to speak of, but it kind of worked in context with the film, so recommend that as well. Westworld, robot cowboys, western thing, and a peculiar but kind of cool score by Fred Karlin. Works. It's very odd, but I kind of like it. Next up, Birdman logic, Outland. It's kind of like a western in space. Some say it's based on High Noon, but I think Peter Hyams, the writer and director, kind of disputes that fact. But either way, it's very similar, but it is like a western in outer space. Great score by Jerry Goldsmith, including a really good action cue, which a lot of people swear by, called Hot Water. Check it out. Next up, John Wayne film, Rio Lobo. Not the greatest of films, but it's okay. It's a fun film. I think it was Howard Hawks' last film. Uh, and Jerry Goldsmith's, I really like the score. Yeah. Now, two fun kind of adventures. We've got The Mask of Zorro and The Legend of Zorro. Antonio Banderas, Martin Campbell directing, of James Bond fame. Two great fun adventure films. Now, they both got scores by James Horner, and I thought the scores were okay when they first came out, but I wasn't that enamoured with them. But over the years, I've grown to really love the scores. I think they're fantastic now. I can't recommend them enough. The Mask of Zorro and The Legend of Zorro. Check those out. And finally, just going through the compilations, Telarc recording Eric Kunzel and the Cincinnati Pops. Cincinnati Pops did some fantastic compilation albums. And this one has a great Magnificent Seven suite, The Furies by Franz Waxman, Alfred Newman, How the West Was Won. That was the first ever recording of that I had. I got this in, I don't know, probably 87, 88. Dimitri Tompkins' Gunfight at the OK Corral. Told you that would come back. The Big Country. It's got High Noon on it. And it's got a suite of themes from Silverado by Bruce Borton. Great stuff. Ennio Morricone, 60 years of film music. That's got a selection of themes on there, re-recorded, and some originals on there as well. A Few Dollars More, Fistful of Dollars, and some others. There's another Ennio Morricone compilation, which had much of the same. Now, this was a 2 CD compilation done by the City of Prague Philharmonic and the Philharmonia as well. So this has got all sorts of stuff on it. Magnificent Seven, Cowboys, Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Monty Walsh, The Alamo, the Hallelujah Trail. Love that suite. I'd love to get the original score for that. It's a fun film as well. Long, drawn out, but it's fun. Once Upon a Time in the West, Silverado, Sons of Katie Elder again, Two Mules for Sister Sarah, High Plains Drifter, Wild Wild West TV theme, Rio Bravo, Comancheros, One-Eyed Jacks, loads of stuff on there. Great overview of Western scores. If you're looking for something like that, the City of Prague recording of Western scores is the one to go for. So yeah, that's it. That's it for my Western scores. So yeah, if you've got any Western scores, make a video or put them in the comments, or if there's any I've missed out or you think I should have, or yeah, let me know. But that's it. So soon I'll do my war film video. It probably won't be quite as many for that, but it'll be interesting. But until next time, good day. Well, that's Australian, isn't it? See ya. Well, I don't know what that is. Yeah, good day.